This is the UARKFCA Timeout, the podcast where coaches and athletes share what God has done and is continuing to do in their lives. Welcome back to another episode. Today I've got Olivia Pielemeier, track, cross country at the University of Arkansas, but who better to introduce Olivia than Olivia herself? Olivia, do you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, your story, and when did you start following Jesus for the first time?
Yeah, so I'm an Arkansas native.
Okay.
Yeah, woo pig. My family and I was fortunate enough to be able to be raised in the church and have parents who follow the Lord, and that's really something that's been important to them and parenting my siblings and I. So going to church every Sunday was something that we have done, which coming to college now, I feel like you don't have your parents waking you up at 8:30 going, be ready in an hour, we're leaving for church. So that like really has been different in really setting your priorities straight. So like I said, I have younger siblings. I'm one of three.
Okay.
Sister's 14, brother is 12. I think my sister's actually 15. I think I just lied.
Well, she'll for sure be 15 by the time this episode comes out. So
Yeah. We're 4 years apart, so yeah, she's 15. Yeah. I hope she doesn't see that. Anyways, so like I said, I came to know the Lord at the age of 6. I remember it. I was in a Lowe's parking lot with my dad. Remember,
a Lowe's parking lot?
Yeah, that's not. It doesn't get much more southern than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I came to know the Lord whenever I was 6, and I feel like most, it's kind of a general story that a lot of people are like, yeah, well, I came to know Him at a young age, and then, I kind of did some things. I feel like I remember it, and it was true. It is true. And that is, looking back, I have been able to really, point that back to the Lord, and there's been a lot that I've been able to learn. But I feel like at that age, you know what's right and wrong, but you don't have the full mental capacity to really grasp it. And so you kind of go along with the perception of, I'm a good person, I do the right things, because I was in school, I was kind of a goody two shoes.
Sure.
Yes ma'am, no ma'am. I didn't go to parties. I went to parties my senior year.
As a 6-year-old, you didn't go to any parties?
Yeah, if there was cake, I was going.
For sure,
Yeah.
yes.
But doing all those things, I felt like made me a good person.
Right.
And then you fast forward a couple years later, and you hit those teen years, and you think everything your parents say is wrong. And half the time, I know my dad and I, there were times where we didn't hardly be able to talk to each other because A, we're too alike, and B, I thought everything he was saying to me was completely incorrect. So I knew better, and that caused a lot of house tension. And then, that just kind of causes relationships with both of your parents because you're mad at your dad, and your mom's mad at how your dad yelled at you, and then it's just this weird triangle. So there for a little bit, it was kind of I know better.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I think's right. When in all reality, I should have listened because it's not like they haven't already lived the life and gone through the things I've. So in high school, I kind of got all, I would say, caught up in a lot of state championships and on to the next. It's I just have to achieve this to be happy. And I ended up winning 22 state championships in high school. I still hold Arkansas state records for the mile, couple relays, 2 mile. And so in high school, it was really easy to get caught up in that and really allowed me to feel okay, this is who my identity, this is what I am. I'm a runner. That's what people knew me for. And so that really kind of opened the door for me to become lazy in my faith. Because remember, I'm a good person.
Right.
I say yes ma'am and no ma'am. So I made some decisions that I'm not incredibly happy with, and some things I look back on and I really regret. And then I just thought, if I can just attain all these different championships, I'll be happy. And it doesn't make you happy.
Well, I guess who better to take that from than somebody who's got 22 of them?
Right.
Wow. Okay. So this achievement lifestyle. Sorry, keep going there.
No, you can chime in at any time.
Okay.
Yeah, no. The like you said, the achievement lifestyle is kind of how I lived. Is I'm a good person. I've got friends. If I can just win this next championship, I'll be happy. I just got to lower the time. So that's how it was. I'd go to school, I'd train, and I just wanted to get the college scholarship. That was how it was. I didn't care about anything else besides winning and getting that piece of paper slid across the desk at an official visit, being like, hey, we want you here.
And is that for you, was that like scholarship moment, was that like kind of the validation of all of like what were these championships for if this paper doesn't come across the table?
Right.
And did it?
It did.
It did. Okay.
Yeah.
And then what?
And then you feel as though, oh, wow, like I've really made this happen if I can just get there. So now it's like, okay, you did all the work. Now we just have to get there.
Okay.
So you flash forward, whatever, to now, and I'm at Arkansas, which I thought was never going to be attainable. I never would have dreamed that I would have been at Arkansas, which was a dream of mine. But I'm here now, and I've achieved all these things that I thought were the things that were going to make me happy.
Yeah.
And now, I mean, at the beginning of the year, I feel like you could say I was probably the most unhappy I've ever been.
Wow.
Which sounds ridiculous on camera.
Yeah.
And you're at Arkansas. You're part of a team.
You got everything you ever dreamed of.
You have a family that loves you.
You accomplished everything along the way.
Right.
Yeah, in family, I mean, all those things, but then you're here and
it's just like, was it really all,
like, what's this all been for?
What's it all been for? Yeah. And so that's the question that I feel like whenever I was telling you, there's been so much that I have learned because I regret the way that I approached people and went about my day in high school. And so I'm here now with a lot of regret.
Oh, wow.
On why didn't I, look at the ability that God had blessed me with, which is running, with a way to be able to ultimately glorify Him and be able to speak about the good things that He's done in my life and how there's more to life than the things that you just do in your everyday. Your identity is not found in your sport. Which leads me to another point. I had a best friend in high school who, her and I were really close. And alongside like the sports and stuff, that friendship, I never had a friendship where I've like have you ever had like a true best friend?
I mean, I feel like maybe, I'd say that I've had a couple that I would, they're like the people that you can tell everything to. They know everything about you.
Yeah, so much fun, yeah.
And then you have a lot, I mean, I can definitely think of a lot of surface level friendships that I've had where like we're cool with each other. But I think, I've had there's a few guys that I can think of that like, man, they know me inside and out.
Right.
But it took me it takes some trust building to get there. And so this girl.
Yeah. So the friendship really blew up, just like completely blew up my senior year of high school. And the way that I handled it was not good. I was upset. I was hurt. We had been best friends for 4 years. And for people who are going to be watching this, they'll know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And we were very close. But the thing that I was talking about with the regret that I had in high school, this is one of those things with not going around and being more prominent and trying to be sharing my faith with people at meets, these different opportunities, because I believe that the Lord gives you talents as a platform to share your faith. And then secondly, on how I allowed certain relationships and treatment of people based on how I felt or circumstances. And so that was one of those. And now coming here to college, like I do my best every day. At least I like to think so, of really trying to show the Lord in my relationships with my teammates, because relationships are important, and handling that conflict or whatever may happen in day-to-day speaks on like maturity, but also it's like these are the people that you're having to come in contact with every day and being able to show the Lord whenever there are tough times. Because if you've ever been part of a team, there are times where you're like, we really got to figure this out.
Yeah, conflict arises and you have to reconcile.
Right. And so having that friendship that completely blew up kind of just eats at me on how, treat people and how you can show the Lord through those circumstances.
That's so interesting. We were just reading the other day about in Acts chapter 9, you get the conversion of Saul. And, you kind of get the backstory of kind of who Saul was before he kind of became Paul. later in his life, and he was ravaging against the church. He probably and not to say that you were like out there like arresting Christians, because that's not what you're saying. But there's a lot of regret that Saul, or you could say Paul, carried with him as he's going to Rome and Corinth and Thessalonica and Colossae. Like you can and you read this. I remember reading this in 1 Timothy that he says, man, God showed he overflowed in his love and his grace for me, a sinner of who I am the foremost. And you can tell that even though like this is a changed person, he's a changed human being, he's done so much good for the kingdom, he still almost uses that mercy that he received at one point in his life to fuel the almost not just the ministry, but the humility that he displays. And I feel like I hear that in your voice.
Yeah, because and what eats at me so bad that I didn't do a good job of explaining, is I always ask myself, had I have been less selfish and put myself aside and been able to really just try and do my best, because I know we never can like fully explain the mercy of God, but have done better job at that, would we still have friendships and different opportunities? I don't mean that in a selfish way of opportunities. What can I have for myself? Yeah. But these different friendships that wouldn't be tattered. Right. You know, because that's a regret that I have to live with every day, is like, why didn't I do a better job? That's tough. But that regret, again, like with Paul and his regret for his past, Olivia, and what it sounds like you were saying is it has changed you and how you have approached future relationships. Yes, like 100%. So here's my question for you. Maybe I'm kind of putting you on the spot here. Is that was you have this past version of yourself that made some mistakes and handled relationships poorly, and now you're at the University of Arkansas. You've accomplished all these things, and you're here, and you're on a new team. And you're saying, it's just natural with teams. There's conflicts and resolutions that have to arise. How would you say that you've changed, or what have you done differently, kind of when dealing with or facing conflict, like in the team environment that you're in now? Yeah. So the first thing that comes to mind is holding my tongue. Okay, smart. That was something that, for those of you who know me, I was always like quick to fire. Like I'd get upset and I'd just lash out, and which is not something I'm proud of by any means. So that's something that the Lord really has, like, you pray for, Lord, please help me to be able to hold my tongue. But the thing that I've realized is whenever you pray for something, He's not going to give it to you. He's going to give you opportunities to practice that. There has been lots of things, not only with just holding my tongue, but in this case, holding my tongue and really praying about it. And also seeking guidance from people who are older than I am and who have either, for instance, been on a team maybe that's had some conflict, or like I said, how my parents don't know anything. Yeah, I usually would call my parents and be like, hey, what do you think about this? And I'm sure they feel so vindicated hearing that right now. Oh, my dad's always like, I told you, call me back. I told you. Yeah, yes. I told you. I love that for them so much. Yeah. So those are really the two things, is holding my tongue and really trying to seek out guidance from someone who has, especially an adult who has a godly relationship with with their coworkers or whatever it may be. I don't know if I'm describing that well. And then I get what you're saying, though. Trying my best to have, an approach that comes from a biblical standpoint. Love that. So that's I think that slow to speak, quick to listen, right? James talks about like who can tame the tongue, right? It can cause forest fires. It steers the whole ship. I mean, it's man, that would, if there was one thing that I think any of us learned today, it's like just learn when to keep your mouth shut, And there's a time to speak and there's a time to listen, and I mean that's worth the cost of admission alone here. But Olivia, I'm curious. You said you're in your first year, right, at the U of A. You grew, despite growing up in Arkansas. So I mean, you've kind of been around the Razorback your whole life. Being here on campus and being a Razorback is a little different. You already alluded to one thing, like mom and dad aren't waking me up for church in the morning. What are some of the things maybe in this first year of college, maybe even this semester, that you've learned just kind of in this new experience, this new stage of life that you're in? Man, I learned a lot. I mean, I feel like college is like drinking from a water hose, fire hydrant, pretty much is really what it is. Yeah. relationships are really important.
Mm-hmm.
Staying in contact with family.
Mm-hmm.
I really didn't. That sounds very cliche, maybe to say.
It might, but I think it's good for us to hear that again.
Like I never realized how important it was. I call my parents probably. I know I call my mom probably 4 or 5 times a day.
A day? Wow.
Maybe 4 or 5 might be a little high, but usually 2 or 3.
You know, I don't want to scoff at that though, because I think there's probably some people that like wish they could call their mom 4 or 5 times a day.
Yeah.
You know, so like good for you for doing that, and good for her for answering every time.
Sometimes she's like, "Are you okay?" I'm like, "Yes." She's like, "Can I call you back?"
Yeah.
Sure. But
You're like, yes, mom, you can call me back. You know.
Yeah, it depends on the day. If something funny's going on, of course, like we're gonna be calling parents.
Love that. So, keep in touch with your family. Mm-hmm. What else?
The importance of priorities.
Okay.
That's been huge.
Talk to me about that.
So, what you put in is what you're going to get out.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, and from an athlete standpoint, I feel like that's like.
Yeah, I mean you've been preached that your entire life.
Kind of what we've been told.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like setting my priorities. So I found that if I don't get up in the mornings before class or before lift, which our days I wouldn't say like they don't start at like the crack of dawn, but I'm definitely struggling to get up out of the bed for sure. So if my mornings don't start out with Bible study, my day has an effect on it.
The ripple effect kind of.
And it's so strange because for years I'd heard my parents say, well, like if I don't have my quiet time, like I'm just kind of in a, I was like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
But
how important is that really?
Really,
right?
how important is it?
And then you stop doing it and you're like, well, that's actually
you're like,
important.
oh man.
Yeah.
Yeah. So setting my priorities straight on, I have to remind myself, what am I here for? Yeah, I'm here to get an education. I'm here to run collegiate. But at the end of the day, as quickly as he gave that to you and provided these opportunities, he can take it away.
Sure.
And so at the end of the day, we're here to glorify him and be able to have these kind of interactions and use this platform of, you know, University of Arkansas, college athletics, FCA to give him glory. And so if I don't start my day off, I'm not living in fear of like, oh gosh, if I don't do this, what's going to happen to me? It's he has given this to me, so this is the least that I can do.
Almost like a position of not fear, but gratitude.
Yes.
Okay.
That's a better word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not doing this because we're afraid of that we're going to make God angry, but we're acknowledging the good things that He's already done for us, and it's just it's almost like this is just the least that I can do is to be in Your presence early in the morning before I do anything else. And I love that you use the word priority, and then you immediately said the first thing in my day because. I heard a joke that like priorities as like a plural is kind of an oxymoron because you can't have priorities, you have a priority, right? And what you've described to me is like my one thing is, yes, I want to get my education. I'm going to run and I'm going to practice hard and I'm going to train hard. I'm going to do the things that I need to do. But my goodness, nothing's going to stop me from having this time with the Lord in the morning.
And I wish I would have done that in high school.
Yeah.
Like
Tell me why.
It would have saved me from
a lot of that heartache that you went through. Yeah.
Yeah. I would not have done a few of the things that I did. And if I would have had the relationship with the Lord that I have now, it wouldn't have been as weak because like I told you at a young age, I accepted Christ, but I really allowed myself to become lazy and grow away from that. And so coming up here and being plugged in with like teammates like Brooklyn and a couple others, really, like, I'm like, wow. There's been a couple times where I just like break down and I'm like, why? Why did I not do this? Like, why was I not being more, conscientious of who I'm hanging out with, the things that I'm doing, and really trying to grow my relationship with the Lord instead of letting it just completely, go to the side. And that's what I did. And that's why we make decisions we shouldn't make and say the things we shouldn't say. I mean, I know at the end of the day we are imperfect.
Yeah.
But that's why I regret that is because now I've come up here and I've been able to really like rededicate my life to Him, which in the moment, like I really struggled with pride. And so like asking for help sometimes from certain people, and my mom's going to be like, yeah, and she's going to be watching this being like, yeah. Because that's what they always tell me, like put your pride aside. And so once I put my pride aside, and that's another thing I've learned coming up here is put my pride aside, understand that I am imperfect and I need help. And asking for help's hard to do.
Yeah.
And so whenever I got to that point, and you're here on your own, you're away from all things that are comfortable, because freshman year is very uncomfortable. And so once I did that and being able to really just rededicate my life to him and understand that, like, I've been in the wrong for a while and I've done things I shouldn't have done and all of those different things. And this is where I can turn it around and I can really be plugged in. And then it's like a new start. That's how I feel like freshman year has been here.
That's so good. You know, and one of the things that I hope people are hearing this in your story here is you confess, like, hey, I got lazy. Yeah. And I wish I would have done it. I wish I would have made this change maybe sooner in my story, but I didn't make it until more recently. But but look, I've still grown from that.
And there's so much I've learned.
Right. And it's never too late.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're like maybe I'm a senior and I've at the U of A now, and it's like, man, I spent the last 4 years not putting my pride aside. It's like, it's not too late for that person, right? To say, man, it's God will still receive me back. Right. And I think I hope that people hear that, because that's what I hear in your story is, I confess that I was wrong. I did some bad things. I wish I'd done it sooner, but God didn't give up on me. He gave me people in my life that help me kind of get back to set my pride aside and move the ball forward, right? Which I think is so critical.
It's crazy how he puts people in your life you thought you didn't need.
Wow, yeah.
And I mean, they come in and you're like, oh my gosh, I did not realize how bad I needed you.
Thank God for those people, right?
It's amazing.
Thank God for those people. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So close us out here. You gave us, I think I counted at least 4 things that you said you've learned over the last year or so. What is, and you touched a little bit on practice. I heard you say, like, you hold your tongue, you seek guidance from people that are older than you. What are some of the other practices that you would say you've maybe implemented in your life over the last year or so as a freshman here?
Yeah, so one of the things that I had written down, because, like you said, I figured you were going to ask me this, talking about patience, because that's another thing. Patience and pride was something that I'm not good in that area. I'm getting better.
We're working on it, yeah.
Yeah, praying for the Lord to give me patience. Like I said, he's given me opportunities to practice patience. And one of those is coming in here as a freshman and at the University of Arkansas. I really, in the back of my head, thought things were just going to like click right off the bat. Right. And they haven't. And so that, has kind of allowed me to be, you have to hold on to the things. I feel like in this case is the Lord, obviously. He has given me this opportunity to be here. And practicing that patience of understanding that he has a plan. And instead of allowing myself to feel bad about, like, well, why is this not happening? Right, or why is it not going the way I wanted it to go? What are you teaching me? And
wow, okay, being receptive to that. Oh, wow, okay, good.
It's all about perception. That's another thing too, is like perception on how can I see this? Yeah, like this maybe isn't going the way I wanted, or, maybe this has been a terrible day or whatever it may be, but what can I learn out of it, and how can I turn it to make it really amazing? And I think with like patience, I've been like reminding myself daily, and like being able to read like Romans 8:28 has been huge for me. And so that's been, like it talks about how those who trust him and love him, like there's good that it's coming. And I'm not saying that this situation's bad. It's just, it's easy to be like, well, why isn't it going the way I want it to go?
Yeah. On my time, right? That's the thing
great.
is I mean, there's so many things that are, if we had complete control all the time, and we could control the timing and the placement of everything, we think the world would just like be perfect, And sometimes God's timing is a little different than ours, and the pride part of us says, I don't accept that, right? And the impatient part of us says, hurry it up, right? God, if we're going to do things your way, could you at least hurry it up?
Speed it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I think what God's calling us to do is say, hey, one of these fruit of the spirits that I've given you is patience. So let's practice that a little bit, right? And I love that you say, he doesn't just like bestow it upon you, right? He gives you opportunities to practice that, and I think that's so key, especially in a world that is like very instant gratification, right? We want everything right away. It's like I just want to level up and like that be a skill that I have all of a sudden. But we have to really practice. Just like you didn't become a runner overnight, right? No. Probably took a lot of races to get to that place. We have to practice that, and I think that's so good. So What would you say I told you like last thing like 5 minutes ago, but I'm so curious.
It's cool.
What's like, how could, like, let's say somebody's listening or watching this, where is like a really practical way that they can practice patience? What do you think?
Well, if you live in the Fayetteville area, you can practice it at the stoplight.
Okay.
Because you know you're going to get stuck at those.
Everybody just got called out with that. I love that. Okay.
Yeah. That's the first thing that came to mind because I'm pretty sure I got stopped at every single red light on the way here. Every one of them.
Me too. And I was panicking. I was like, Olivia, I'm going to be a little bit late. But yes, that's so true.
Yeah. So stoplights.
I mean,
there's so many different ways.
Let's just take that. Let's run with that. Like, so if you're at a stoplight and you say, I mean, I obviously would like it to be green and I would like to be going, but what if in that one moment, for the 7 extra seconds that I have to stop and wait, I just say a little prayer right there. I mean, that alone, that could change how we view the rest of that trip, the rest of that day. It could, and you were talking about one thing I loved is when we do that one thing, when we connect with God in that one way, you said it was first thing in the morning, the ripple effect of the whole day changes. And I think, man, what would life be like if at a stoplight we took 7 extra seconds to pray instead of 7 extra seconds to curse the light for not being green?
Yeah, you feed the positivity into the negativity.
Right.
Yeah.
Feed that dog, right?
Yep.
That's good. Well, Olivia, thank you so much. This has been incredibly enlightening and insightful, and I loved hearing your story. Man, I do hope that we stay connected and you get more opportunities to share because I think you got a lot to offer, a lot of wisdom, especially as a freshman. I don't want I don't want anybody to look down on you because you've got so much. You got a great story. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It was great.
We'll connect again soon.
Sweet.
Thanks for listening to this episode of UARKFCA Timeout. If you enjoyed the story, learned something new, or both, consider subscribing and sharing this episode with a friend. You can follow us online at UARKFCA, and always remember to take the time out to recognize that you have a powerful story too.